So Alex Ovechkin yesterday went on record to say that he wants to keep playing. My words, not his, but we'll play his words for you, and they were pretty definitive, I thought. He said he hopes that he didn't just play his last game and that he hoped he has another season coming. He also said it's going to be up to him, his family, and the team to decide what happens now, and he would go on to say that he wants to play and that his family, specifically his kids, want to see him continue to play. This was Alex Ovechkin at the team's practice facility yesterday.
I think, be honest with you, I'm pretty sure it's not my last game. I hope it's not my last game against Columbus. And like how I said, like I have to make a decision, like to see where we at. You know, the team, family. Like obviously, family gonna support me. Like my wife and kids, and kids already asked me like, "Dad, are you staying or not?" And so
you tell like everybody else.
I tell them we'll see.
Ovechkin with the media on breakdown day as the Capitals said their goodbyes for the final time yesterday at their practice facility. I'd say that pretty much answers the question about his willingness and interest in coming back. We can stop speculating. We now know he would prefer to be back.
Yeah, we were looking at clues, and there's a pretty big clue when the player says he wants to come back. Now, you and I were on after the Nats game yesterday, so we kind of went into this a little bit, but to hammer home my point from yesterday, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think you might feel the same. There are three parties that he mentioned. Party one, Alex Ovechkin. Check. He would like to play hockey again. Would like to come back. We have a pretty definitive there, yes? Party number two, his family. He would say, yeah, I'm going to talk to my family. His family seems very interested in the idea that he would come back. His kids love it. They love hanging out with the boys. They love this. They love that. Okay, that's the second unit.
He said they've already been grilling him about whether or not he's going to play, and they've made it clear that they want him to play.
The third group is the Washington Capitals organization. Anyway, it's a beautiful day out here at Raspberry Falls.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's pretty clear where the ball is here. It's in the Capitals' court.
Which is the conversation I want to have today. Because I think the debate is not really whether or not Ovi wants to play. But how is the team going to feel about Ovi returning next year and what works for everybody? Everybody meaning the player and the squad. Earlier today on the Junkies, Johnny Cakes Allville essentially advocated pay that man his money, give him the biggest contract, whatever he wants, keep him around, he's our sweet, precious Ovi. And by the way, I don't know that that's the wrong way to think. There's going to be different camps here. That's not the camp I'm in, but that is certainly a camp. He has given us everything and then more. He is hockey in Washington, D.C. He is the reason for the sport's growth and popularity and interest and for sellouts. You know, we've never really had an athlete in my time here, Danny, who you would say built a house. You know, they say like the ballpark that so-and-so built. Mm-hmm. The $600 million renovation at Capital One Arena, whatever the new version of that is what Ovechkin built. Legitimately. He created the interest and the love that currently exists in this city as far as hockey goes. There was a team before Ovechkin. They even made a cup run that occasionally had fans. Go back and look at the games around that lockout. Go back and look at the games before Alex Ovechkin became the player that he did, and look at them now. It's a different sport. It's a different thing. Fandom has completely changed. He deserves whatever he gets. But there is an argument that the best way forward for this team is not to pay him a ton of money, not to guarantee him top-line minutes, not to have him on the power play 2 full minutes at a time. And that's the second camp. There's basically what Cake says, which is if he wants $10 million, give him $10 million. He's Alex Ovechkin. And then my side, which is if you're coming back, here's how we're going to do this. And I think that's important. This is not just a where can we sign, what would you like? Here's how this has to work. Well, I'm going to give him some guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go.
What has really irritated me about this, and I'm not angry or coming down on any individual person, but I hear this refrain, he led the team in goals, and then kind of waving away any idea that it may not be in their best interest to pay him as such. He did, and he deserves credit for that. However, no human being, no hockey player in history has ever been put in more advantageous spots to do those sorts of things. Every empty net It's, the guys are passing up obvious scoring chances, then flipping it over to Ovechkin from 3/4 of the length of the ice. Every power play, it's sort of catered and geared towards him for a power play that stunk all year long. Yes, getting top-line minutes, he's scored the most goals on the team. That's a problem.
And he gets O-zone draws at a much higher rate than normal.
Hadn't even gotten there, yeah.
Because he doesn't take D-zone draws.
I think it's single digits all throughout the season. I think there was a couple icings where he actually had to come back and be in the defensive zone towards the end of the year. But imagine that. And even still, he was a minus player. Now, again, it sounds harsh and like I'm criticizing Ovechkin. I'm not. The greatest goal scorer ever, most important athlete in DC history. Incredible. Everything you said about the house that Ovi built is dead right. But the idea you go, he led the team in goals, and there's no further discussion, that's wrong. This is not a good defender at this point. This is not a guy that could skate around with reckless abandon on a nightly basis. It's not a guy that can match up well with the younger, fresher, faster game that has taken over the league. And again, it sounds like I'm being harsh and critical of Alex Ovechkin. It's not the case at all. There's a lot of guys that can't do that.
Well, you are being critical, and that's okay, and this is kind of my point. I believe there is this perception that you can't be critical because of what he has meant. And therein lies the issue.
Yeah, critical is the I am being critical. Harsh. It sounds harsher than I mean it to be. But there's a lot of guys that don't fit as well with the modern era of hockey. He's been around for 21 years, for God's sakes, right? I mean, that happens. The game evolves. A lot of guys that are 40 in baseball can't do what they did before. So when you have to cater and do all these different things to set him up for success, as you're sacrificing for the team, everybody's kind of putting it in. He's taking minutes from young guys. It's not exactly that. He's still, playing 17 minutes on ice. It's the variety of minutes, the way that it's happening, right? Where he's not doing any penalty kill, never has, never will, never should. But as you said, no defensive zone draw. So we have to do this in order to. We have to play a certain way. Everything runs through him, and yes, setting him up for success. That's not the way the team is best served anymore. It was for 20 years. It's not now.
I think I've almost become viewed as someone who doesn't want Ovi back, and that's not correct. I would not label myself that way. First of all, if next year just becomes another year like this one, where the Caps are spinning their tires as a fringe playoff team, and Ovechkin is a top-line guy getting huge minutes who gets all 2 minutes on the power play, and he's making $10 million or whatever, I'll be sitting in the stands for 30 games again, wearing red, screaming and excited. I love Ovechkin. I love the team. I'm in. They don't have to worry about me. I'm in. But this is the time of the year where we can sit back and have a better conversation about best practices and what is important here. Is it important to just celebrate Ovechkin's career with one send-off season, which I was told all year he didn't want, by the way? Now you're signing up for that, almost certainly. But is that the goal, where it's about celebrating Ovi? And, yeah, maybe you'll make the playoffs. Maybe you'll have a chance to win a round or two, but you don't have quite as good a chance to, win a championship that way. Or should the priority be, how are they the best team possible next year to win a Stanley Cup? Because I don't think that is possible or can be done if you're paying Ovechkin huge money, a la with the exploding cap, the percentage of the cap that he's always made. Now, maybe he comes to them and says, I'll take a discount and I'll play a little bit less, but I want to hang out with the guys. I can still help you. I can still, even in a reduced role, be a 20, 25 goal guy, and I think that's great. There's a path to make this all work. I don't know what his willingness and interest in that is, and I don't know how the team views it. Is that something Ted Leonsis or, at the very top, Chris Patrick, Brian McClellan, would they be okay even offering him that? Is that viewed as disrespectful? But this is what I would do, and it's super easy for me to say on the outside, not having to deal with any possible pushback, blowback. But my opinion, all emotion removed from this, the best thing they can do is go to Ovi and say, hey, based on what you've made in your career, you should be like a $10, $11 million a year guy right now with salary cap or what have you. We're going to give you 5.5, something like that. 1-year deal. And you're going to play effectively like third-line type minutes. And we're going to get you out on the power play, but we're going to roll 2 groups. It's going to be a much more traditional, you're just one of the guys on the team, all hands on deck power play. If he's willing to sign up for all that, Danny, let's shake hands, let's put pen to paper, and let's move forward. But we got to noodle that with him, because I think just saying it's Ovi, he gave us everything, we love him, all true. I'm not going to try to be disrespectful here if I'm the Capitals. But you're signing yourself up for a worse season if you just pay him all the money. And I think there's 2 camps. There's mine, which is, let's be realistic. Let's not hurt ourselves in the ability to go out and get someone to help replace Ovechkin as a potential 40-goal guy in a trade. Or the Cakes Allville, we'll call it, camp. Where our buddy Cakes is saying just pay him his money. This was earlier today on the Sports Junkies. This is what he had to say.
I'm writing up the contract right here. If I'm Chris Patrick, at least a one-year deal, $10 million, Ovi, put your signature right here.
The problem is
slide in front of him right now. And if he wants two, I just do this. I cross out the 10. I do 2 years,
right,
$20 million. You only made hockey really popular here in Washington, but when it wasn't before you got here. 2 years, $20 million. Please end your career here, as you should, as a Washington Capital.
2 years and $20 million is preposterous. And I'm not joning on Cakes. I think that's kind of the debate, and it's very possible that they do that.
Huge portion of the fan base thinks that, I think.
Yeah, I think he represents maybe even the majority of the fan base. Mm-hmm. I've talked with a lot of my buddies. I've argued with some of my friends about this. They would just do that sight unseen. I think Cakes then, and maybe we can get him on the horn and ask him this. Here's the question I would ask that person. Would you rather have a legitimate chance to win a cup next year? I tell you you're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals cup mix. Or have another year where you get to watch Ovi score 35 goals. Which would you choose? And I do think maybe Cakes would say the second one. I wouldn't necessarily.
Now, they would reject the premise, which I think is incorrect. See what I'm saying? They would go, you are a cup contender. Add a couple pieces. And it's like,
well,
again,
yes, but that's fine. But I'm just saying.
No, but I'm with my
hypothetically.
Point is,
go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is, it's not even hypothetical. Listen, stuff happens in sports, best laid plans. But the path to being a really good team again does not include Ovechkin at $10 million.
Correct.
Or whatever the salary cap percentage is. They would reject that. They go, he'll have the team in goals. And that's what I'm bucking against. Like, that's what I'm arguing against. I heard JP say it. I heard Cakes talk about it. Barstool Nate joined JP and Zabe. And he was saying it like there's the fandom of Ovi is there's a reason that pro sports aren't governed by emotion. At a certain point, you have to make a cold, cutthroat, best for the program type decision. This is the hardest one of those in recent memory for any DC sports team, to be honest with you. But my favorite players didn't end here. Art Monk did not finish in Washington. A million other guys haven't as well, and it's going to happen again. But the challenge then is how do you do it without offending? Because I would sign up for the scenario you laid out where you go, here's half or whatever of what you've made before, reduced role. We're not going to do this. Everything's catered to Ovechkin thing anymore. We did this for 2 years where we're trying to get you the goal scoring record, and now it's kind of like this weird, hey, it's late game. We're up by goal. We probably could use some good defense, but here's number 8 also. We're not going to do that sort of stuff. We're going to try to win as many games as possible. That's the priority to and fro at every second of the day. And that doesn't include Ovechkin at that money, at that role anymore. And I think that's okay to say and not besmirch the legend that is Ovi.
So a couple of things. One, can they win a cup next year? Like, are they a legitimate contender with Ovi at $10 million? I would say they could. Sounds like you don't think there's any path to that.
No.
I think they absolutely could. It would take a nearly flawless offseason otherwise. Because the fact is they were a playoff team this year in a lot of ways. A couple games go differently. You could always say that. I understand that. But if you actually look at underlying metrics, things like regulation wins and minutes led in games and all of these different things, they were a top 10 team, frankly, at major points of the season in the NHL. So by that standard, I think you line it back up. You play 82 right now. They're in the playoffs, and then whatever happens when you get in happens. But here is where we'll agree, and this is where I think maybe a Cakes or someone from that camp wouldn't. I would ask them, do you agree that there is a clearer path to a Stanley Cup in the next 2 years without Alex Ovechkin than with him? That's the question. Are they more likely to get to or win a cup in the next couple of years with or without Ovechkin making $10 million? And I would say it's without him taking up that salary cap. Now, again, that does not have to be the end-all, be-all to the discussion. For some people, it might be as simple as, dude, it's Ovechkin.
Yeah, okay. And that's the answer.
You got to wear it for a year or two. And I would say you kind of did that this year. Now he's under contract already. It's not like you gave him a one-year deal. But this year was supposed to be that year in their minds. I think there's people in that building that would say, this was the swan song. We kind of just did that. We did spin our tires this season as we were finalizing the development of the kids, and Ryan Leonard scored 20 goals, and you bring in Sordiff, and you bring up Ilya Protas, and you bring up Hudson. And now it's time for us to hit the NOS button. We're ready to go win with 2 trades that we're going to make for a top 6 guy and a defenseman and however this is going to work. But I would just come back to that question. We can open up the phones on this at 800-636-1067 because I'm fascinated for Caps fans to weigh in on this. 800-636-1067. I guess I'm trying to make it succinct and, like, drill down on what I want to know. I think I would want to know, in a hypothetical, forget the legitimacy of it and all that. So we don't need to argue about whether this is right. They win a Stanley Cup next year without Ovi. Or let's just say they get to a Stanley Cup without Ovi. Or Ovi plays. Which would you prefer? Because I think a lot of people would just say Ovi plays. I'd rather that.
Yeah, take my chances with Ovi.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And then the second question would be, do you agree they have a better path to championship level in the next 2 to 3 years without committing $10 million per year to Ovi? Those will be my questions.
And I think those are perfectly fair because again, it's the hard part for it is again these are human beings. You always talk about it's a people business, and in general, I would be, people would hate me as the general manager. I'm getting rid of guys a year early. At the instant I don't think we're a championship caliber team, I'm trading guys away. A lot of things would happen where you guys would despise me, but this is one of those where it's just easier to say the thing I'm talking about versus actually doing it because of everything that he's meant. Again, the eyes of the league were on you in a positive light for years as this goal chase happened and the math, and NHL Network is doing so if he's inside 100 goals 3 years away, he's got a shot to do it at this time, and all of a sudden, like, we're counting down. That's all capital stuff. Capitals. The branding, the ingratiating yourself into this marketplace for this fan base that's watched the team lose in the first round or worse over the last handful of seasons since they got to the Stanley Cup. You're basically still as popular as you ever were because of this guy and because of this chase, and maybe even more so. So I understand it's not just another player. I mean, they shipped John Carlson at the trade deadline at the 11th hour. After midnight, he's getting a call saying, "Hey, you're out of here, dude. Thanks for everything." That's a pantheon guy. That's a Mount Rushmore capital in my view, and he was gone. This is even beyond that. So it's not easy to do the thing that I'm talking about doing, and I don't know how to walk this tightrope. It is the ultimate, hey, we got to acknowledge our people here. But I can't just do, thanks for everything, here's a blank check. That is not the way to get to where this team needs to go. I see that as a giant obstacle, and the fact that most of the fan base, not most, a huge percent of the fan base feels that way, it sounds like from a PR perspective, from Ted and from anybody saying stuff from the front office, that may be how they have to handle this.
So the other interesting thing, too, is, like, what is the number that would make sense to pay him? I've just used $5 million as a placeholder because that just feels right to me as, like, hey, it's a one-year deal, very respectable salary. You're paid like one of the higher-paid players on the team still, but it's not debilitating in any way. And I believe it's kind of the threshold of being able to get done what they need to get done. Because I would like, in a free agency market for hockey, not to get too nerdier into the nitty-gritty on this, is not great this offseason. But what they're going to do is what they always do really, really well. McClellan, Patrick, this front office, they're going to evaluate players on other teams' rosters, like they did with Strome and Oshie and Brouwer and Sordiff and so many others. And they're going to go out and get a prime-of-his-career player who could come in here on the top six and score 30 goals or whatever. And they're going to be hunting around. I mean, I don't think it would be crazy for them, like, to take on a big contract, Nylander, or, kick the tires on Austin Matthews. I don't know if you saw Breakdown Day with the Leafs yesterday, but they're kind of in shambles at this point. I think they could really swing for the fences. But the more you pay Ovi, the less dreaming you can do on, who the big superstar they're bringing in here is. So what is that number? 10 is just the Cakes today said, 1 in 10, 2 in 20. That feels like if he's going to make something similar to what he's always made in his career, which is just kind of, I would say, the common sense if there's no discount. That's the number. That does not work to me, to do that and the thing I think they need to do to be cup caliber. So can you do that at 7? Feels a little rich. Would he take that? If you're Ovi, is that disrespectful? It might be, by the way.
Right? Yeah, I don't know how you'd view that.
Are you kidding me? After 20 years plus and me creating the Rock the Red era and giving you everything. Look around. Simba and what's Simba's dad's name? Simba's dad's
The Lion King.
Simba's dad. Mufasa. Thank you. Toby got it. Mufasa. Everything you see is yours, is ours, right? Everything. Ted, look. Ted, everything you see in this building I gave you.
Everything the red touches.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and you're going to offer me $5 million? I'm thinking like a GM hockey guy. I don't know if that's something that the people that have the relationships that are hanging out with Ovi and his family are going to be willing to do. But I think if you're trying to win a cup next year, the hockey guy way is the better way to do it. And I want to know what people think.